to an introduction to the CLD. Our speakers are David Becker, Associate ILD, CLD, and Chairman of the CLD Commission. With him, Andrew Jakes, Professional IALD and CLD.
Thanks to everyone for joining this presentation. The purpose is to reiterate what CLD is about and hopefully encourage participation. All mature professions have a system of credentialing. It's a method of defining professional standard. We're kidding ourselves if we think we can be different. Currently, anyone can say they're a lighting designer. There's no obligation to have any skill or ability. All you have to do is get some business cards printed. This implies that anyone can do it. There's no special skill required. It seriously erodes our standing as a profession and will limit the ability of the profession to have the respect that it deserves. If we don't get a grip with defining competency, there's a real risk that others outside the industry will try and define it for us. Restrictions could be imposed on the practice of architectural lighting design that don't suit the way we work. This could come in the form of licensing. If this were to happen, it would be a severe restriction. Licenses are territorial, they're limited to specified regions or countries, and if you're required to have a license but don't have one, you can't practice there. Also, licenses are controlled by government agencies, so we'd lose control over the standards that we choose. On the other hand, certification is entirely voluntary. It doesn't restrict any aspect of working as a lighting designer, and it doesn't impose any territorial limitations. Instead, it's a positive endorsement, a standard, a measurement of competency based on a portfolio of work designed and managed by proven industry experts. And with that, I'll hand over to Andrew.
Thanks, David. Firstly, I wanted to congratulate the IALD for establishing this certification program. It's a fantastic and necessary initiative, and I'm proud to have qualified. For me, I had a growing concern that if we as the lighting design professionals don't fill the space of the lighting expert, then it will be filled by others whose interests are unlikely to align with our own. There are a lot of unknowns about how we as a profession will be regarded in the future, including our place in the project's consultant team. We are often positioning ourselves somewhere between being part of the creative team and also part of the technical team, in many ways not unlike the role of the architect. One day soon, there may be need to define what a lighting expert is for all number of reasons, and this could affect our abilities to do our job. For me, it's important to be part of a group that can demonstrate capability across the many complexities that make for good lighting environments, and for that group to be recognized as the most qualified to do so. I wanted to talk specifically about this idea of deserving a seat at the table. The table I'm talking about is the one shared with the lead consultants. I've spoken to many colleagues and peers, and we all have stories about architects making our life difficult. This difficulty stems from a general lack of trust in our profession. During these lighting workshops, we sometimes win the lighting arguments, but many times as the minor consultant we lose. And sometimes we need to invest a lot of time to prove something we already know to be true. The question is why? And I think the answer lies partly in our perceived level of expertise. Take, for example, the process it takes to become a registered architect in Australia. Graduating high school with good grades, the architecture student embarks on a 3-year undergraduate degree, followed by a gap year to experience working life in an architect's office. An extra year to travel overseas is encouraged by the university so the student can gain first-hand experience wandering through significant international works of architecture to broaden their education. On their return to university, they begin a 2-year postgraduate study to obtain their Masters of Architecture. Now, as a graduate, they must be able to demonstrate in a professional workplace competency across the many aspects of architecture practice. And finally, they must sit an exam with the Architecture Board, which I'm reliably informed is no walk in the park. Absolute minimum time from embarking on a career in architecture to being able to call yourself an architect is 8 years. but 10 years is more common. Calling yourself an architect is an achievement. Let's compare this to what is required to call yourself a lighting designer today. It literally takes as long as being able to utter the words, "I am a lighting designer." No wonder we don't automatically receive nor deserve respect. Let's compare this to the process to call yourself a certified lighting designer today. Probably you have completed an undergraduate degree in a creative field, typically 2 to 3 years. Probably you have done your postgraduate studies in lighting, taking another 1 to 2 years. You would then find employment in a lighting design studio and work your way up to a lead role. This will take a minimum of 1 year, but probably many more. Having obtained a lead role, you will need to cover a diversity of projects over a minimum of 3 years, until finally you are now able to apply for certification. This process to achieve CLD typically takes 8 to 10 years, much like that for the architect to become registered and call themselves an architect. So one of the reasons I decided to get CLD is to know demonstrably that I deserve to be at that table as an equal. I encourage everybody eligible to become certified. Back to you, David.
Thanks, Andrew. So let's summarise what certification is all about. It's not a license. Licenses are territorially based. They restrict whether you can practice a trade or not, and they're administrated by government agencies. It's not a test. There's nothing to revise for. Similarly, it's not an exam. It's not a submission for an excellence award. Many people have said they will apply when they've got enough award-winning projects, but this is absolutely irrelevant to CLD eligibility. It's not an association. IALD funds the certification program, but that's the extent of it. Achieving CLD does not mean that you are a member of IALD or any other association. What it is, though, is a portfolio-based assessment of competency measured against a standardised criteria. It shows that you've been independently assessed and demonstrated the standards expected of a proficient architectural lighting designer. Who benefits? Clients and the general public benefit because a credential builds trust in our profession. Jenny Gillard from Australia captures it nicely. She says her clients are assured that they're engaging a professional of the highest standard, and that builds confidence for her. Just a couple of slides now to wrap up. Who's eligible? Well, CLD is for architectural lighting designers. Applicants must have at least 3 years' experience at a senior or lead level. The applicant must have enough projects and diversity to meet the portfolio requirements. That's a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 4 projects that are required. That concludes this overview. There's a lot more information at this website, including the CLD handbook, which I recommend you read. Thank you for your interest, and if you've got any questions, you can raise them through this link or contact the IALD. In anticipation, good luck with your application. Thank you.